Think and Grow Rich. We are talking about our fears today in the Think and Grow Rich workbook, available at shopgenstore.com. Let's get right into it. Feel free to call in anytime. Thank you so much for watching my life. The seventh basic evil. In addition to the 6 basic fears, there is another evil by which people suffer. It constitutes rich soil in which the seeds of failure grow abundantly. It is so subtle that its presence often is not detected. This affliction cannot be properly be classed as a fear. It is more deeply seated and is often fatal than all of the 6 fears. For want of a better name, let us call this evil susceptibility to negative influences. If you are reading this philosophy for your purpose of accumulating riches, you should examine yourself very carefully to determine whether you are susceptible to negative influences. If you neglect this self-analysis, you will forfeit your right to attain the objects of your desire. Make the analysis searching. After you read the questions prepared for you, the self-analysis, hold it to your strike accounting in your answers. Go at the task as carefully as you would search for any other enemy you knew to be waiting you in ambush, and deal with your own faults as you would with a more tangible enemy. Hey, Sean. The 7th basic evil is more difficult to master because it strikes when you are not aware of its presence, when you are asleep, while you are awake. Moreover, its weapon is intangible because it consists of merely a state of mind. The evil is also dangerous because it strikes in as many forms as there are human experiences. Sometimes it enters the mind through the well-meant worth of one's own relatives. At others it bores from within, through one's own mental attitude. Always it is as deadly as poison, even though it may not kill as quickly. Hi. Thank you. Thanks, guys. So call in anytime. How to protect yourself against negative influences. To protect yourself against negative influences, whether you're of your own making or as a result of activities of negative people around you, recognize that you have willpower and put it into constant use. Use until it builds a wall of immunity against negative influences in your own mind. Recognize the fact that you and every other human being are by nature lazy, indifferent, and susceptible to all suggestions which harmonize with your weakness. Recognize that you are by nature susceptible to all the 6 basic fears and set up habits for the purpose of counteracting all these fears. Recognize that negative influences often work on you through your subconscious mind, therefore they are difficult to detect. And keep your mind closed against all people who depress or discourage you in any way. Deliberately seek the company of people who influence you to think and act for yourself. Do not expect troubles, as they have a tendency not to disappoint. Without doubt, the most common weakness of all human beings is the habit of leaving their minds open to the negative influence of other people. The weakness is all the more damaging because most people do not recognize that they are cursed by it, and many who acknowledge it neglect or refuse to correct the evil until it becomes an uncontrollable part of their daily habits. If you have answered all these questions truthfully, you know more about yourself than the majority of people. Study the questions carefully, come back to them once a week for several months, and be astounded at the amount of additional knowledge of great value to yourself you will have gained by the simple method of answering the questions truthfully. If you are not certain concerning the answers to some of the questions, seek the counsel of those who know you well, especially those who have no motive in flattering you, and see yourself through their eyes. The experience will be astonishing. You have absolute control over but one thing, and that is your thoughts. This is the most significant and inspiring of all facts known to woman. It reflects woman's divine nature. The divine prerogative is the soul merely by which you may control your own destiny. If you fail to control your own mind, you may be sure you will control nothing else. If you must be careless with your possessions, let it be connected with material things. Your mind is spiritual estate. Protect and use it with the care to which divine royalty is entitled. You are given a willpower for a purpose. Women with negative minds try to convince Thomas A. Edison that he could not build a machine that would record and reproduce the human voice because they said no one else has ever produced such a machine. Einstein did not believe them. He knew that the mind could produce anything that the mind could conceive and believe, and that knowledge was the thing that lifted the great Edison above the common herd. For the benefit of those seeking vast riches, let it be remembered that practically the sole difference between Henry Ford and a majority of the more than 100,000 men who worked for him is that Ford had a mind and controls it. The others had minds which they do not try to control. His record knocks the foundation from under the time-worn alibi. I never had a chance. Ford never had a chance either, but he created an opportunity and backed it with persistence until it made him richer than Croesus. Mind control is the result of self-discipline and habit. You either control your mind or it controls you. There are no hallway compromise. The most practical of all methods for controlling the mind is the habit of keeping it busy with a definite purpose. Without this control, success is not possible. Building alibis is a deeply rooted habit. Habits are difficult to break, especially when they provide justification for something we do. Plato had his truth in mind when he said the first and best victory is to conquer self. To be conquered by self is, of all things, the most shameful and vile. Another philosopher had the same thought in mind when he said, it was a great surprise to me when I discovered that most of the ugliness I saw in others but was a reflection of my own nature. It has always been a mystery to me, said Albert Hubbard, why people spend so much time deliberately fooling themselves by creating alibis to cover their weaknesses. If used differently, the same time would be sufficient to cure the weakness, that no alibis would be needed. Life is a checkerboard, and the player opposite you is time. If you hesitate before moving or neglect to move promptly, your men will be wiped off the board by time. You're playing against a partner who will not tolerate indecision. Previously, you may have had a logical excuse for not having forced life to come through with whatever you asked, and that alibi is now obsolete, because you are in possession of the master key that unlocks the door to life's bountiful riches. The master key is intangible, but it is powerful. It is the privilege of creating in your own mind a burning desire for a definite form of riches. There is no penalty for the use of the key, but there is a price you must pay if you do not use it. The price is failure. There is a reward of stupendous proportions if you put the key to use. It is the satisfaction that comes to all who conquer self and force life to pay whatever is asked. The reward is worthy of your effort. Will you make the start and be convinced? Call in anytime, guys. You could call in on the live anytime. You have reached the end of the text, but not the end of the work. The philosophy of Think and Grow Rich is something that must be worked on all the time. Through breaks are deserved and required, it is important that you use the material continuously so you can achieve your current desires of future ones you have not yet even thought about. The following appendix includes several inventory analyses from the book. I have collected them in one location so you can go through each one and build off of the previous one. It also makes it easy to find for consequence inventories. It is important that you complete them now and schedule a regular interval, no longer than a year, to go through them again. I suggest you choose a day where you have most of the day to go over and consider the inventories. Then take a commitment to be honest with yourself and could bring up corresponding emotions and feelings. Call in anytime, guys. Read over the inventory questions and statements in the appendix and schedule a day within the next 2 weeks that you can complete the inventory. Schedule the whole day, as it will take most of the day, and honestly complete the inventory. Do not put this off, as this is one of the most crucial exercises within the Think and Grow Rich course. It is when we can be honest with ourselves, take an honest look at who we are and commit to what we want to become, that real change will start to manifest itself in your life. Write down the date in your calendar now and choose the date you're going to follow up. Don't follow up inventories more frequently than once a month, nor any longer than once a year. I suggest you use a notebook and save your results, as you will use them as a reference point to track yourself, the changes that come about because of your commitments to yourself and your desires. And tomorrow we'll go over the appendix, because there's 30 major causes of failure, and we're gonna go in on all of it. And then we're going to do an annual self-analysis as prescribed by Think and Grow Rich. And then there's 3 sections to that. 57 Fabulous Alibis. And, okay, let's do the 57 Fabulous Alibis by Old Man If. People who do not succeed have one distinguishing trait in common. They know all the reasons for failure and have what they believe to be airtight alibis to explain away their lack of achievement. Some of these alibis are clever, and few of them are justifiable by the facts, but alibis cannot be used for money. The world wants to know only one thing: have you achieved success? Remember, too, the philosophy presented in this book makes every one of those alibis obsolete. Please a check next to an alibi if you are guilty of using. If I didn't have a wife and family, if I had enough pool, if I had enough money, if I had a good education, if I could get a job, if I had good health, if I only had time, if times were better, if other people understood me, if conditions around me were only different, if I could live my life over again, if I did not fear what they would say, if I had been given a chance, if I had a chance, if other people didn't have it in for me, if nothing happens to stop me, if I were only younger, if I could only do what I want, if I had been born rich, if I could meet the right people, if I had the talent that some people have, if I dared assert myself, if I only had embraced past opportunities, if people don't get on my nerves, if I didn't have to keep the house and look after the children, if I could save some money, if the boss only appreciated me, if I only had someone to help me, if my family understood me, if I lived in a big city, if I could just get started, if it were only free, if I had the personality of some people, if I were not so fat, if my talents were known, if I could just get a break, if I could only get out of debt, if I hadn't failed, if I only knew how, if someone didn't oppose me, if I have so many worries, if I could marry the right person. Call in anytime. If people weren't so dumb, if my family were not so extravagant, if I were sure of myself, if luck were not against me, if I had not been born under the wrong star, if it were not true that what is to be would be, if I did not have to work so hard, if I hadn't lost my money, if I lived in a different neighborhood, if I didn't have a past, if I had a business of my own, if other people would only listen to me. If, and this is the greatest of them all, I had the courage to see myself as I really am, I would find out what is wrong with me and correct it, and then I might have a chance to profit by my mistakes and learn something from the experiences of others, for I know that there is something wrong with me, or I would not be where I would have been if I spent more time analyzing my weaknesses and less time building my alibis to cover them. Those would all be great posts. Anyways. Okay, see you tomorrow at 8, going over the appendix. Thank you. Thank you for watching. You guys have any questions for me? Favorite shoe of the day? This shoe, and it comes in black and red as well. This is the Tuesday shoe of choice. Hey Josh, I'm about to hop off. I will see you guys tomorrow at 8. Bye.